Welcome back to another episode of Black Facts. I want to welcome Leticia Vaca Williams back to Black Facts. Just to remind our Black Facts viewers, Leticia is a licensed clinical social worker, a trauma therapist, and the CEO of Urban Health Group, based out of Oakland. The last time Leticia was on, she gave us tips on how to navigate the healthcare system. And during our conversation, she mentioned the importance of having an advanced healthcare directive. And it struck me because I know this conversation, it's a hard conversation to have. I've tried to have it with some family and friends, and they often shy away from having this, what I consider a crucial conversation. So on Black Facts, that's what we do. We engage in crucial, authentic conversations. So today, we're going to talk about having an advanced healthcare directive and what that all means so we can make the best decisions for our health. So we're going to start out. What
Okay.
what what is an advanced healthcare directive? What does that mean?
So, an advanced healthcare directive is a legal document. It
Okay.
outlines your preferences about how you want to manage a medical emergency or an end of life situation ahead of time.
Okay.
So, again, Michelle talking about folks don't really want to talk about it. Well, for good reason. It's very emotionally charged, but it is a legal document that outlines what you would want to happen in the case that you're ever in a medical emergency or someone who is at the end of their life. And that can look like an aging parent or grandparent.
So where do I get one? You said that it's a legal document. So do I have to go to an attorney and pay for somebody to give me, would they give me advanced care?
Yeah, I mean, you can get them a number of places. Usually it comes about when there's a crisis, when someone's sent to the hospital and they have a terminal diagnosis that they don't believe is curable. Then your healthcare provider may start talking about what do you want to do, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about what's actually in the document.
Okay.
But it's a free document. You can actually look it up online and do it
Okay.
yourself. A lot of institutions like Kaiser and different health systems, they have classes and programs that you can participate in. In our organization, we have a Plan Well for Care course where we walk people through parts of the healthcare directive and even set it up, but also the other life things that come up with it. So, the important thing to know about an advanced healthcare directive, again, it's a legal document, is that it explores your medical options and addresses hypothetical situations if you're ever in a situation where you cannot communicate for yourself. So this only really goes into place when you hear about, my mom was in a coma, or I was unconscious, or I was on life support. These are situations where you cannot communicate for yourself. In the best of circumstances, you can tell the doctor, no, I don't want that, or please give me some more pain medication, even if it is more detrimental to me. So it's really important to start thinking about these situations before you're in a crisis, before you're in the hospital, because there's a lot of emotions that come up with it. And that's
Mhm.
okay. But it may make it more difficult to think about these things because we don't want to think about it. So, really normalizing these difficult conversations within our families and communities are one way that it will encourage us to do them rather than wait so last minute when time is not on your side.
And you said usually these people actually hear about advanced care healthcare directives when they're in crisis, when they come to the hospital and their loved one, right, has been in an accident or something. So I want to stop right there. We have to get out of crisis mode. We
Mm,
have to plan and we have to be proactive. So let's kind of back it up. This is why
yep.
we're having this conversation. So we're
Mhm.
not hearing about this or having to deal with such a heavy topic in the midst of a crisis. Because, right, you
Right.
can't think clearly when you're in the midst of a crisis. So, why is it so important? I think I kind of shared a little bit, but
Mhm.
why would you say, as a medical social worker, that it's so important to talk about this now when you're not in crisis mode, when you're clear headed and you're able to really make good healthcare decisions for in the event that something like that happens?
Specifically for African Americans, there's a huge disparity where they're more likely to endure unwanted medical procedures and experience unnecessary pain and family stress. So the benefit is that it will increase the communication between your provider so that you're not getting treatments that you do not want, that you're not enduring unnecessary pain. And it's a whole experience for you as the individual going through it, but your family who may be feeling helpless that they can't make you feel better. And so having these conversations earlier on begins to normalize with it. If this was to happen to me, this is what I will want you to do. It's really about preparing yourself and your family to think through your options. I think in general, a lot of people don't know you have the option to think ahead. You have options in what you desire for care. And the story that sticks out to me is the families that come to the hospital with a healthcare directive. A crisis happens, their mom fainted at home, or they were in a car accident, or they were, something was going on, and they came in with a document and they said, here, doctor, read this. And the doctor pauses and reads it, and they have a clearer understanding about who you are and what you want for care. And I think it can be really, helpful. I'll just reiterate to know you have options and to think through these options and communicate that to your family in the case you can't speak for yourself.
So you said that I can access one of these documents from my provider, right? So say I have an appointment scheduled next week to go and see my
Mhm.
provider. How does that conversation go? Do I just wait till I see my doctor, or do I
Yeah.
ask the front desk? How do I
Yeah,
get one?
I think different systems have a process. There's some organizations where it's a checkbox. They want to ensure that all their patients have a healthcare directive on file. So sometimes they'll ask you about it in your routine appointment. Again, you may not be ready to have that conversation at that time, but now that we're planning ahead of time, we really want to empower you to say, "Hey, I heard about healthcare directives. Can you help me? Can you point me in the direction of where I can set one up with the organization?" If you don't have to wait for them to do that. You can go online and there's a national institute because each state have different laws and the form looks different. So you want to make sure that you're adhering to your state's legal document, right? And caringinfo.org is a wonderful website that provides free healthcare directives for all the states. So you can go through and find your state's advanced healthcare directive, complete it on your own. What makes it legal is if it's notarized or if it's witnessed by someone who is not listed in your documents. So again, it can be completely free, or you can take the steps. And there are a lot of people who go through
So
lawyers who set it up. So again, the cost difference can look different depending on who you want to establish this document. We also support people in doing that as well in our organization.
okay, so it can be free. So is there any difference between it being free or if I have an attorney write it up? I mean, is it one more legal than the other, I guess is what I'm asking?
No, no.
Okay.
The process to legalize it is to either notarize it, have it witnessed, or have a lawyer draft it up.
Okay.
Now, each state, keep in mind, each state has a different process of what they determine as, legalizing a document. But I know in the state of California, you can do it by it being witnessed and signed by someone who is not listed. So you can have a friend sign it as a witness to make it legal.
Okay. And then we would need to give it back to our provider so that it's on file in the hospital so they know what our wishes are, or what do I do after I've
Right. So
gotten it
now you do
witnessed and all
it. Yeah. Now it's complete. I recommend everyone to keep a hard copy with themselves, give a copy to the person you designate as a decision maker so that if you're in emergency, they have it already on file, and to give a copy to your primary care doctor to scan it into your chart. So you're covering all your bases by making sure you have it. Because a lot of times people do it and they lose it, they misplace it. But it's really important that your decision maker, what we call a surrogate decision maker, who can speak on your behalf if you can't speak legally, the healthcare institution will have to listen to whoever you designate in making those decisions. And I think it's important to talk a little bit about what's actually in the document.
Yes, so I absolutely. I want to you kept speaking about not only should we give it to our provider, which that makes sense, so that if something happens, we end up at the hospital, they know right there, then and there, what needs to happen or who is our decision maker. But that's the key. So you mentioned giving it a copy to whomever we would like to make that decision, those decisions for us. Let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Because say that I want a distant cousin to make decisions for me,
Mm-hmm.
but my partner says, "Oh, what? No, they show up right, concerned, loving, like, no, I know you better than anyone else." And they try to make the decisions. How
Mm-hmm.
does that work? Should we, or would you advise us having a conversation with the person that we've designated prior to putting them down so that all hearts and all minds are
Absolutely.
clear about, and they don't just find out the last, unfortunately, and, again, while we're in crisis, that, oh, you've designated me to be the decision maker. Well, I
Right.
don't want to fight,
Right.
with your significant other, partner, or whoever. I don't want that responsibility. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's really important to pick. I'll talk about what's in the document, and
Sure.
then when you're choosing who should be the go-to person. So the document comprises two parts. One is designating what they call a power of attorney.
Mhm.
So that person has a power on your behalf, or the language may say surrogate decision maker, but it means the same thing. And the second part are choosing the treatment types that you want. It even talks about like organ donation. So if your life was to end, it talks about, would you want to be a donor? And folks don't know that you can choose who you want to donate to, right? So in the first part, your decision maker selecting someone, you want to pick someone who actually knows you. You want to pick someone who has the emotional capacity to act on your behalf in a crisis. There's some people who just really get really scattered or overwhelmed, and they may completely forget that you did all this work for them. So you want to pick people who you think would be the best advocate for you if you're in a crisis. And you also need to have a conversation with them to see if they're interested in being that person for you. This is also an ongoing process throughout your lifespan. I know at one period of time, my husband had his mom. She's no longer with us. So we have to update our advanced healthcare directive as life changes. Some people who were married and they had their spouse, do you still want them to be your surrogate decision maker in the case of a divorce? Or there's some people who they were healthy and now they have a condition. Their desires for certain treatments may change. So picking a really reliable person is going to be key, because they're going to be the ones to remember, I need to step up and speak for you if you cannot speak for yourself. The other part is about the different options, the different life sustaining treatments. These can look like, do you want to be on a ventilator, a breathing machine to help you if you can't breathe on your own? Do you want to be on dialysis if your kidneys are not functioning? Do you want a tube in your stomach if you're not able to eat by your mouth? Do you want lines in to give your body fluids and medications if you need it, or even oxygen? So, these life sustaining treatments, when you think about your options, you may say, no, I never want dialysis. These can be really not they can be, they are very invasive, life sustaining treatments that some people wish they did not choose. For my mother in law, we were, she wanted everything. And it got to the point where she couldn't eat for herself. And the greatest desire was for her to eat a hamburger. For months, she was just saying, I wish I could just eat a hamburger. If we had more detailed conversations as her condition changed, she might have said, no, I want to be able to eat hamburgers as long as I want. So you get to choose what is meaningful treatment, what is meaningful for you to be able to do or not to do.
So it's really planning ahead, planning for our care ahead. In the event something tragic happens where we can't speak on our behalf, but even if we're just, going through it and we're weak, we still have some type of document to be able to share with individuals, that
Mm-hmm.
is that's detailed about what our desires are towards, either during a long illness or towards our end of life.
Right. And we all know that we all have a time,
Mhm.
right? We all have a, a date when our last breath, our last heartbeat happens. So that's certain for everyone. How would you like the last of your days to look like? And there's some people say, give me everything you got. Give me all the treatments. And there's some people say, no, I'd rather be at home. I don't want to spend my last days in a hospital, hooked up to machines that are beeping, can't get any sleep because people are coming in all the time, and really feeling like you're poked and prodded. So you want to think about what you would like. You might be surprised what your loved ones would choose for themselves. I know for when I did this with my siblings and even my parents, I would have guessed differently than what they actually selected. So even the people who love you, who care about you, may not know what you actually want. So in order to get the care that you desire, we have to think about it and we have to discuss it and decide so that we can really eliminate any opportunities for errors or misunderstandings.
I love that. You said, we have to think about it and we have to decide. And I really see this as giving a gift to your family, just like writing down, a will or something. I know it's hard to go there and think about it, but it really is a gift. Having been on the receiving end myself of, you know, um, a loved one having an advanced healthcare directive, and me not really having to make those difficult decisions in my time of grief and confusion, and just trying to process what was happening with their health. It was
Right.
it was a gift, to be
Mhm.
able to say, okay, this is what they wanted, and take that breath, exhale, and say, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna see, what that looks like, right? And just
Right.
move through the process, but alleviating that pressure on your loved one of having to make the decision and then say it doesn't go a certain way, right? And they grieve and they feel bad. They have that guilt that they made the wrong decision for
Right.
you on behalf of you that really wasn't, you know, helpful. They thought
Right.
it would be, but it wasn't. So I would like our viewers to see it as a gift, that you can give to your loved ones in case something happens. They know very clearly, how you would
Mhm.
want your health care to be provided.
Right. And I had the unique opportunity of seeing and witnessing people and supporting them in a crisis, both in the ER and ICU. And it can be really ugly. It can be really difficult if family dynamics and the emotional parts that come up, some unresolved tensions or issues where it's like, this is not the time to talk about like what happened last Thanksgiving. It's time to like make a decision on do we want to continue giving certain medications? Do we want to continue exploring these options, even if it's not being helpful? So again, I just want to position this as not that folks don't want to do it, but it hasn't been normalized and we haven't had the opportunity to have a really full understanding and conversation and support in what this could offer us. There is a lot of times where, I'll cross that bridge when I get there
Right.
because folks have a lot of things going on. We say, okay, let's cross it when we get there, or let's think about how we might want to cross the bridge.
Yeah. So, in saying that, would you suggest, like, when would you suggest you do this? Right now, tomorrow, sit down or pick a weekend, and say, this weekend, I am going to go online. And I think you said it was careinfo.com.
Caring info.
Caringinfo.com.
Mhm.
Okay, so go on to caringinfo.com, and or either go to your provider, right, and
Right,
get a copy, but designate, like, be intentional, right?
right.
And pick a date that I'm going to sit down and I'm going to look at these questions and answer them honestly, and to the best of my ability, and then have a conversation with whoever I'm designating to move things forward.
Right. I would recommend make deciding if this is something you want to do for yourself. I highly encourage everyone to do it, but there's some people who, quite frankly, aren't interested, don't have the capacity to do it at the time. But I want to let you know it is an option to think things through and plan well for the best care that you can receive, even in a crisis. That is an option that you have available to you. I've seen it go really well when people have a healthcare directive, even in a crisis. The way they maneuver challenges is much smoother because they don't have to think about what would my mom want? What would my dad want? What would my spouse want? It's already done. So knowing that you have the option to decide ahead of time can be a gift. Now it is there's an emotional part. It is difficult.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
difficult. I don't want to like gloss over that, but it's doable to say, okay, in my life at this time, this is how I feel about this situation, and these are the people I want to help me. So I would recommend deciding this year, 2023, I want to get my affairs in order. I want to
Mhm.
make sure that I have a healthcare directive in place. Now you can say, I want to do that before the end of summer, right? I'm gonna make it my goal for the end of August to have this done. Where you can work on it a little by little, but put some reminders on your phone. Complete healthcare directive. Because this is one of those things that people push to the back of their mind. They
Yeah.
know it's important.
Right.
No, I should do it, but it seems like not right now, right? When a crisis, that is when we tend to think about it. But again, it may even be difficult you can't execute it when you're in a crisis because it's not done. So I would say make the commitment to think if you would want this for yourself, for your family, if you have children, if you have um, dependents, this can look like parents that you're caring for, or a partner, or even if you're a solo person who have a limited
Right.
support system.
Yes.
What if you don't have no one to speak on your behalf like that? This is even more important to have in place so that no one is guessing. We definitely have people who come into the hospital as John Does and Jane Does, and they're hooked up to life sustaining treatment, and we can't find anyone who knows them. So, I'm telling you my story because I had seen this more regularly. And then I also witnessed people who had a really smooth process, even during a crisis. I know that it is a great tool to have. And that's what even encouraged me to start this company. I said, oh, this is something we can do right now.
Yes.
It's not something that is very costly, it's not something that's out of our reach. We can do this right now. And part of it is having these conversations with you, Michelle, and within our communities as frequently as possible. Because I do get calls from people like, oh, can you do this for my dad? Or can I know you've been talking about this. And so we're really wanting to change. the narrative on how we're approaching our care and really coming from an empowered standpoint that you are the center and you do have choices. Let's plan the very best that you can for yourself.
I love that. Do you have anything else you want to tell us about advanced healthcare directives? I mean, this has been so informative, even though I know some of the information, just to hear it and, go, okay, yes, I need to continue to push myself forward, right? To update it. That's what
Right.
I need to do. I need to update
Same,
mine. So,
same. And so the good thing to know about the healthcare directive, it's a legal document, but you can change your mind at any time. This is a process that we want to stay engaged with. At one point, I wasn't interested in being a donor. Now I am. So it's time to
yes.
update your advanced healthcare directive. And that's the true, confession on my part. No, I had that belief that if something happened to me, they'll let me die because they want my organs. I did have that belief. And now I feel less concerned about that and say, well, yes. And when we think about donation, and I'm not going to speak extensively about it, but you can decide how you would like your organs to be donated. You can say, you can only use me for transplant, only if
Right.
someone, or you can use my organs for therapy or research or education.
Mhm.
Or you can say, I only want to donate inside the United States because they do organ donation internationally as well. So you even have options on how you would like to use your organs should you choose to be a donor. And I didn't know that. I'm like, no, I don't think I want to be researched on. Or yeah, research me. Yeah, and I think I got some good stuff that folks can use. But you have way more options than we know. And we want you to pick the very best for yourself. And we can do that if we think ahead and not when we're in the situation.
Thank you again. Thank you, Leticia, for
Of
joining me on
course.
Black Facts and educating us on how to plan for our care and plan ahead, right? Be, like you said, change the narrative, be proactive. Let's, destigmatize this. Ooh,
Mhm.
it's some mythical, whatever. No, let's make sure that we have all of our wants and our needs and our desires for our healthcare already lined out, and look at this as a gift that we can give to our loved ones and then to ourselves, right? Because we'll know that we're being properly cared for in the way in which we desired. So
Mhm.
thank you for joining me on Black Facts again. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. And
Of
thank you to
course.
my Black Facts viewers for tuning in. Please share and subscribe so you can be up to date on new and upcoming episodes. Please leave me a comment and let me know if you have completed your advanced healthcare directive. And please join us on the next episode of Black Facts for another engaging conversation. Take care, everyone, and be well.